That blue aura hovered, wanting to rush in and rob Lin Ji of the knowledge in her head. Hood's eyes opened, staring at Lin Ji's black shadow opposite her, wondering in her heart, there really isn't any. Is there any defense? That's not right. I don't understand why. The soul completely guesses what's happening in front of me. Looking at the defenseless black soul in front, Hood was extremely confused, just like a normal person. Hood hesitated and thought, could there be a trap? Such as, is this place thorny or soulful? It could also be a psychological shock. Hood consoled himself. I have to stay calm. Hood placed his hand under the water, then slowly stood up. That blue gas surrounded Hood. Hood slowly walked towards Lin Ji, thinking, no matter what it is, I can't stop now. I just need to move forward. Then I will move forward. I intend to get the results I expect. Now is not the time for me to hesitate and doubt anymore. I must make up my mind and take action immediately. Hood's hand slowly reached towards Lin Ji, carrying a blue aura slowly crawling towards Lin Ji. Hood chanted to himself in his heart, calm down. Rely on Ling's touch version. Use my fastest speed to get close to the boundary of his soul. If I don't go deep in to take it, no matter how strong he is, he won't be able to do anything to me. Sweat. Hood's blood flowed down his cheeks. Suddenly Hood's eyes widened when Hood saw his own blue aura almost blending into Lin Ji's arm. Hood smiled happily, good. We won. Take this now. Now I have to quickly retreat. As long as I win. But as soon as he finished his sentence, a hole as deep as a cosmic black hole surrounded the Hood. And the two halves of the Hood's face were like pieces of water. The crystal gradually cracked. Everything around gradually broke. Hood shouted, trap. Hood looked at the scene in front of him in bewilderment, only to see a large black monster around him. Indescribably large, covering Hood's entire body. The monster opened its mouth wide and screamed at Hood. Red light flowed out like blood. This place is like a galaxy with planets. Then there was a ball growing from the middle of the galaxy. That ball slowly opened its mouth to reveal strange teeth. A monster's tentacle appeared, creating a stream of spiritual energy with countless fragments, passing by another large ball. A monster with a whole body like a worm with countless eggs in its mouth. In the middle of those eggs is a black hole. Hood falling from the sky. Under a huge and strange eye below. The Hood fell into endless darkness. His whole body seemed to turn into sea foam. This was a trap. The Hood's whole body trembled. His mouth opened wide, sweat pouring down the mirror. There was no blood left on his face. All knowledge was a trap. Hood raised his hand to grab something, but that hand seemed to have left his body. Hood seemed to be possessed by some extremely terrible monster. The creature clamped down on itself. Unable to move, an extremely terrible monster with a human face. Then a monster face. Then octopus tentacles. All of them were huge and terrible monsters. It was very easy to catch the Hood. No need to defend. A black shadow like a ball inside was a candle. Next, a red eye with a slit opened slightly. Every piece of knowledge in this place is a toxic and irreversible way of thinking. But below the red eye is a black puddle. In the puddle are countless human skeletons. Hood's clothes and Hood's body are also in that lake. Everything seems to have been digested. There was an eye. Those monster skeletons floated and then slowly grew new skin. A black drop of water fell into the evil white eye. Hood was scared and his mouth opened wide, shouted, I admit defeat. Hood lay on the ground with foaming mouth. Hood's whole body was thrown away. Hood endured the pain and screamed. A pair of black hands raised up Hood's whole body as if being stabbed. The spirit left the body. The soul in Hood's body seemed to be drawn in one direction by something. Hood's mouth opened wide and there was a stream of white light hovering. Hood slammed his hand down. Something black covered the ground where Hood was now gradually retreating. Hood was lying on the ground, his whole body trembling and not daring to move. Lin Ji on this side shyly scratched his head and asked, are you okay? Lin Ji thought to herself, maybe I can't play anymore, so I'm playing tricks on me. God has eyes. I didn't move or even touch a strand of his hair. Quote, Lin Ji's foot thought rhythmically, or should we say this is some kind of exaggerated display? When his ego regrets it. Lin Ji walked closer and wanted to reach out and touch the Hood. Thinking, if that's the case then there's no other way. Knowing that the true face of the world can sometimes be that cruel. Lin Ji came closer and looked at the Hood. Lying on the ground asked, what's wrong? Can you stand up? Hood covered his face and said, I'm fine. Lin Ji's face dropped a drop of sweat and thought, luckily. It's not a trick. This guy has real life. The light outside the window shined down. Hood's kneeling figure and Lin Ji's steps. Lin Ji turned away and said, "It's okay. Sit in the correct position." Lin Ji walking towards his chair. Moon was holding the Candela sword and stood at attention. At this time Hood behind him slowly stood up. His whole body emitted a black aura. Then Hood touched his forehead. On Hood's forehead slowly grew a strange red eye. Then from that eye crawled tentacles. Hood was extremely scared. And Moon saw that, holding the Candela sword in her hand as well. Trembling, the Candela sword is probably crying right now. Moon thought to herself, the person who broke into this house must be him. Just stole the boss's knowledge. But the result failed. Then he grew a third eye. What did he see in the boss's soul? Hood stood opposite. His whole body blurred. That third eye grew 3 other eyes that were rolling back and forth. Then the eye in the middle narrowed, leaving only a small hole. Then now one of Hood's eyes suddenly opened wide. The other right eye flashed with light. Moon saw this and thought. Or maybe he didn't originally fail but was lucky enough to see a small piece of knowledge. Then after receiving that knowledge, is the person who has this strange phenomenon appearing in the end really the same person as before? What kind of scary phenomenon is that? Assuming the person standing here is a normal person and doesn't know anything. He must have been scared by the boss's knowledge so he lost his reason. And Lin Ji didn't know anything about the following image. My back is still humming to the music and walking back and forth on the chair. But Moon is not an ordinary person. Moon's eyes like galaxies squint at Hood. Even though Hood has a new awareness of the fear of his boss. But Moon had long been brainwashed by a large amount of knowledge. So Moon no longer felt surprised. Moon stood straight with a sweaty face. The words, "Moon," appeared in her eyes. I didn't see anything, Moon thought to herself. Boss is really the type of narrow-minded person. Just like before, and his desire for revenge is also very strong. Even if the opponent is weaker than himself. A lot, but I also want to play a game for a new life. And Hood over here wiped his hand on his pants. Hood's eyes widened, then Hood sat back on the ground like a Japanese sitting position. Both hands placed on his thighs seriously like a good boy. Moon on this side was sweating. Lin Ji saw Hood sitting seriously like that and thought, not bad. It seems he is obedient and understands it more than before. The trick of psychological spanking and treating childhood illness is really very useful. Lin Ji thought of Claude covering his face, heard this word intellectualism and thought of his appearance the look of some policeman. Lin Ji thought he knew right away that this incident must be dealing with an extremely stubborn academic organization. Which must gather to hang out every day, not do anything serious, satisfied and also loves to make people feel uneasy. Lin Ji thought of the scene where Hood led a group of intellectuals holding a loudspeaker to protest. And looking at the qualities of these people, you can immediately tell that they have gone crazy. Like the light shined down on the figure Lin Ji was sitting on. Sure enough, if you want to make this boyish boy go on the right path, you have to stand at his angle and slap him in the face to make him realize what he's doing. My behavior is inherently meaningless. This is the lesson that touches people's hearts. Lin Ji sat on the chair like a king and asked, "Do you understand now? Do you still want to plunder knowledge and continue maintain some intellectualism anymore?" Hood over there, his whole body trembling inside. He looked up and replied, "I understand." Hood sat on the ground. Hood's face reflected below like a black shadow smiling. Hood said, his voice trembled, "Truth robs knowledge. Intellectualism, everything is nothing but nothingness." Hood put one hand on the ground. His face looked up at Lin Ji very strangely as if he was crazy. Hood shouted loudly, "So this is the true face of the world. What I saw before, seeing and knowing are all fake. Everyone and what they say are deceiving me. My perception is distorted. I'm wrong. I'm really wrong." Couple Hood's eyes were extremely serious. Blood-streaked, everything I did before was all wrong. While Lin Ji smiled as if she had finished teaching the spoiled child to think, sick. This young man only needs that thing he always trusted to be broken. Then he will be completely cured. The effectiveness of this treatment is beyond imagination. As expected of me, Lin Ji looked at Hood kneeling on the ground over there. He was praising himself in his heart. Today, Teacher Lin rescued another young man who walked quickly. Knowing his mistakes but also knowing how to correct them is a good thing, paying back the transmission of merit. 2 years is a poem in a painting. Lin Ji sat looking at Hood opposite and asked, "You already know your mistakes. It's really a good thing. Remember, don't do those things in the future. Nonsense and breaking the law. Lin Ji began to teach Hood, breaking into houses and robbing illegal acts. This is not right as a human being. Still following discipline like me is the right path. Hood sitting quietly and solemnly listening to Lin Ji's instructions. Even if you define your behavior as stealing books, these things don't belong to you. Do you understand? Hood closed his eyes and nodded in response. Yes, you're right. Lin Ji smiled, took the sword from Moon's hand and said, I understand, that's good. Moon, go get a chair for this child to sit on. Looks like he knows he's wrong. Moon replied, yes, then turned away. And Lin Ji touched the sword and thought, yes. This attitude of admitting mistakes is very correct. It is true that children are easy to teach. Such a rare opportunity should be given to him. Hey, let's drink some chicken soup. Moon brought the chair to the Hood, while Lin Ji thought to herself, let's make this kid my potential customer. Maybe he can come and buy it in the future. 2 more books. Isn't that perfect? Lin Ji, who had the teaching disease and chicken wing disease, started to relapse again. Moon put down the chair. Then Hood was very obedient. Take off your shoes and sit still on the folding chair with both feet, very serious like a good student. Seeing this, Lin Ji's head was a little sweaty. He closed his eyes and sighed, thinking, forget it, posture, it doesn't matter. Giving this boy chicken soup is the most important thing. Lin Ji said, for your situation, I have something to say. The light from outside the window shined on Lin Ji. On the other side sank into the darkness. You are still too young. You still have a bright future. Don't ever think about not working but eating. You must learn to enjoy the joy of pursuing knowledge. Only the item you get through your own efforts is the most realistic feeling of satisfaction. Lin Ji raised one hand to explain, the other pointing to the Hood opposite, but the feeling is full. You probably have never felt this satisfaction before. Hood bowed his head and replied, you're right. Hood raised a hand to explain, the concept of intellectualism is drifting and the illusion of climbing higher is more unstable. I need a more solid foundation. I also need a distance that belongs to me. Hood's toes sat slightly bent. At this moment Lin Ji cut off her voice, so use your wisdom to open your own path. Hood raised his eyes and looked bewildered. Lin Ji pointed at Hood, her red eyes flashing, you can be so enlightened. It proves that you are already a person with wisdom. Moreover, wisdom is more important than knowledge. Hood was a bit startled when he heard that. Lin Ji's mouth opened and he said, with knowledge, you can create new things. Those words came out of Lin Ji's mouth like deep piercing words into the deepest part of Hood, but once you have wisdom, you can create new knowledge. Hood clasped his hands in front of his chest. His whole body seemed to be illuminated by the light of truth, wisdom creating knowledge. This is my new foundation. In Hood's eyes looking at Lin Ji sparkling like starlight. And Lin Ji wiping the sweat from her forehead thinking, it's been a long time since I forced someone I drink chicken soup like that. It feels so good. This boy is really amazing. Drinking a whole bowl of chicken soup without wasting even a single drop. It's so comfortable. And Moon stood next to him and listened all along. Until now I don't understand anything. At this moment Lin Ji's eyes flashed, I'm done. I almost forgot my true purpose. At that moment from somewhere a stream of white smoke appeared, causing the atmosphere became more tense, but these things take time to explain. Now let's talk about Rupert's problem. Hood this time agreed to compromise and replied awkwardly, okay. I'll tell you everything I know. Hood's face sank into the darkness. Then Hood told the story of the fat man standing in the dark room, papers falling out, cholera. Rupert originally did not die naturally. It is said that while he was researching history, because he accidentally saw a taboo secret, he went crazy. Mirror at that time, Rupert's face was wide open. One white eye had now turned red. His eyeballs seemed to fall out. His mouth was wide open and finally he committed suicide. Rupert used the sword to end his life. After he committed suicide, archaeologists successively had several scholars wanting to research the cause of his death. But in the end there was still a point of no return. All those who wanted to research returned. Went crazy. After that no one dared to touch the related documents anymore. Later, even when researching stories related to that history, scholars were extremely scared. All of that it seemed like it had turned into a broken, fragmented skeleton. Developing into the future, rumors like this even appeared that the pandemic in that historical period would spread to modern times. That prophecy made many people had to tremble in fear. Hood sat seriously and said, because in order to prevent fear from spreading. In the end, the scholars of the Truth Society decided to eliminate the archaeologist. Lin Ji sat in front of hearing that. My head started sweating and I kept thinking. This is so powerful. Archaeologists no longer exist. Right, indeed. Reality is always scarier than art and creativity. Lin Ji put her hand on her cheek in thought. But when you think about it, because of the research, is it related to the constant death? This is indeed a bit strange. Lin Ji's eyes flashed as he thought, but it is also possible that it was because during that historical period there's an incident that has upset the scholars' perception, making them unable to accept it, causing them to commit suicide. Lin Ji's face was in the dark and he asked, "Are the relevant documents available, sealed?" Hood explained, "Everything has been sealed, including early civilizations, research documents and related cultural and pristine relics." Hood added, "One of them has a very important reference text. I heard that at first. Ruby was crazy about reading this book, so the corresponding search engine power is also very high. Based on according to the record, the name of this book is The Dark Period, the history of ups and downs of Elfords." Lin Ji was struck by lightning when he wrote the name of that book. He thought to himself, that's right. That's it. Lin Ji's hand on the armrest of the chair clenched tightly, breathing as she thought, next I just need to figure out how to get this book. Then I can continue my research. At this moment, Hood's eyes flashed slightly. Hood raised his hand as if to make a statement. "Mr. Lin, it has something to do with this book." Hood placed his hand on his chest and proudly said, "If you need it, I can immediately bring it to you when I get back." Quote. Lin Ji heard that and asked again, "Huh? Can you get it?" Hood's mouth opened. "Of course I can't get those shrimps. But I can." Hood thinking of his fierce aunt. Hood explained, "The president of the Truth Society is my aunt. She's secluded and doesn't care about life. So she gave me the power to read." Quote. Hearing that, Lin Ji was surprised. Lin Ji thought, okay, I also guessed that this boy's parents have a very high position in the Truth Association. But I didn't expect to have such a high position. So scared. No wonder he dared to directly break into the house to rob. So he has someone backing him. Lin Ji said again, so working within the scope of your capacity is not allowed. Breaking the law. At this time, the tied people lying over there moved in silence. Hood on this side replied, "I know. I listen to you." The whole group of people tied up over here heard Hood's words and they all put question marks. Lin Ji then remembered and said, "I forgot too. These guys are still tied up. Moon, untie them, then Hood will teach them." "Okay," Hood and Moon said at the same time, "No problem." Hood brought back his shoes and Moon was in charge of untying the other group of people. After untying the other group of people were all released. Moon yawned loudly. Lin Ji saw that and said, "This side is okay. It's been hard for Moon. Later the police will come soon, so just leave this place to me. Go back and rest." Moon replied, "Yes. Good night, boss. Wait until Morn finishes untying the rope for the last person." Lin Ji looking at them. "I thought, this group of people must have been beaten stupid by the Moon. Don't ask me to pay for medicine or something at that time. There will definitely not be any compensation. If I buy books, then on the contrary, you can think." At this time, a step quickly appeared. The door opened. Claude quickly shouted, "I'm bothering Mr. Lin." Coincidentally, Lin Ji looked at the group of people and asked, "Do you have anything to tell me now?" The whole group of people bowed their heads 90 degrees and replied loudly, "Sorry Mr. Lin. We were wrong." Lin Ji asked, clasping her hands behind her butt, "So what will you do in the future?" Each of them replied, "Report. I promise I will absolutely not appropriate knowledge again in the future. Complete. Report. I'll go back. When I return, I will immediately leave intellectualism and complete." Lin Ji praised, "Very good. Very spirited." Claude just rushed to look at the scene in front of him in bewilderment. At this moment Lin Ji turned around the head asked, "You're here. While waiting for you to arrive, I took the opportunity to teach these young people. Fortunately, they listened, and the effect wasn't bad. I'll leave the rest to you. Let's see how to handle it." Claude looked at the group of people, each of them smiling, baring all their teeth. Claude thought to himself, "Can you teach stubborn intellectualism into such an obedient look? What have you done to them? This time, this group of people have already suffered. They probably think tomorrow will be a little more peaceful. Which is also a good thing. Claude said to the other group. If we have reconciled, it's over, then I'll forgive you guys. Pay attention in the future. The other group replied, sure. Then they all opened the door and turned to leave. After leaving the bookstore, everyone put their black cloaks back on like bats walking in the dark night. Hood slightly turned his head to look at his accomplices and asked, you guys saw it too, right? The whole group burst out laughing. One guy even laughed until his mouth watered and replied, I saw it. What's written in the new book is the true truth. Everyone replied, yes. How great. How beautiful. This is truly terrifying wisdom. And I felt a strong torment, even my brain can't control this pleasure. The feeling of being filled with knowledge is so comfortable. I want to do it again. I want to continue reading these books. Hood's eyes opened and he said. Then starting today, Hood placed his hand on his chest and smiled loudly. We don't need to worship the truth anymore. Is that okay? The whole group was silent for a while, then cheered loudly, okay. Hood smiled, his eyes widening on his forehead. So who should we worship now? What should we worship? The whole group of people stood in the middle of the main street and replied, Mr. Lin has guided us on the right path. We should worship Mr. Lin as our master. The whole group shouted as if they were psychologically manipulated. Shouted in unison, Mr. Lin said. Wisdom creates new knowledge, so let's worship wisdom. The door closed. Claude closed his eyes and breathed a sigh of relief. Claude looked at Lin Ji, asked, Mr. Lin, have you had any news regarding Wild recently? Lin Ji was cleaning up the rope and turned his head in bewilderment. Lin Ji held the rope and faced Claude. Both were silent and said nothing. Lin Ji made up a big excuse and told Claude, use it to tie, it's a book. Claude also agreed. Yes, I understand. Lin Ji put the rope on the table. Lin Ji asked Claude, has Joseph still not found the background of his old friend? Lin Ji thought to himself, I remember the first time Joseph went to the bookstore because to make up with Wild. It's been more than a month and I still haven't found someone. My work performance is too poor. Wild has also experienced having some unfilial children look at his assets. Lin Ji remembers Wild and Joseph. The two of them were like two kids angry at each other, but I can't rule out Wild deliberately avoiding Joseph. After all, they also had a conflict that year. But Joseph took the initiative to make up. But that doesn't mean that Wild will agree to forgive. Lin Ji sat behind the table, her hands on the table, and sighed inwardly. If I have the chance, how about I talk to Wild about it? Thinking about the arrogant personality of that old man Joseph. If we met him without saying sweet words, a new conflict would arise. At that point it would be very gay. And Claude on this side also pulled out a chair and sat down. I went down and thought to myself, now I'm sure I can't wait to rip out Wild's intestines. Claude closed his eyes, placed his hands on the table and said to Lin Ji, that's right. We still haven't found him. Claude explained in detail, but to be more precise, it's not like there's no income planning. We have found some clues that he appeared on street number 52 before. Moreover, he must have stayed there for a long time. At least a day. Lin Ji heard that, putting his hand on his mouth. He coughed and repeated, road number 52. At this moment Lin Ji's mouth opened slightly. He remembered the big fire that time. That's not where the second fire incident happened. Have you been in the news recently? Lin Ji's whole body felt like she was struck by lightning, remembering that time when she and Moon were sitting on the sofa watching TV, even though it's been more than half a month since the incident. But I still saw this incident on TV. I heard that the incident on Street 52 was more serious than the gas explosion on the street before. At that time, Lin Ji was drinking tea and reading the newspaper. The news. Related news was continuously published in the press. It seemed that some rioter placed a bomb in the sewer system while it was raining. And because of the continuous explosion, the base collapsed. Lin Ji also saw water flowing freely and washing away some trees and houses, plus the stagnant water spreading on the road caused the water valve center in the sewer pipe to explode out of control, leading to a direct flood tower. Continue to level a few roads. At that time Lin Ji also saw a certain building explode in the newspaper. Not only that, the rioters also attacked the Central Research Agency, which means provoking the Central Region to do so caused the Central Police to directly go to war and conduct a large-scale investigation, which is also what attracted public attention a few days ago. Lin Ji thought about Wild, and about Wild he stayed on Street 52 for a whole day. knowing that that place was a heavily affected area. The residents there had long moved to another place. Normal people have no reason to stay there. Lin Ji analyzed in great detail. Furthermore, from Claude's charisma and tone just now, I can feel that he has thinking otherwise. It is very likely that Wilde was there before the explosion. He may even have appeared at the scene. Lin Ji could imagine the snake eyes in behind the mask, how Wilde glanced and silently observed. In other words, the meaning of Claude's words was that Wilde might have been involved in that raid. Lin Ji and Claude sat across from each other in the bookstore. Lin Ji wondered, could it be that because of Charles's incident, Wilde joined some organization? Could see through the brain circuit. Lin Ji's is a bit backwards, but most of them analyze it correctly. Lin Ji immediately raised her hand to explain to Claude opposite. Unfortunately, after he came here to return the book, he stopped coming to me. Lin Ji remembered Wilde's back and silently sighed. If nothing unexpected, I feel like this old customer seems to have gone down a path of no return. To be honest, I also feel sad in my heart. Very much. Lin Ji put her hands on the table and looked at Claude opposite and asked, is it related to the incident on street number 52? You don't need to hide it. Tell me frankly. Claude asked, hand on his thigh replied, yes. Claude breathed inwardly, what a sigh of relief. In fact, the people inside the secret tower were already suspicious about the matter of the white wolves. The owner of the bookstore also secretly pushed for it. But now it seems that it probably won't. But from Wilde's side, it's not so sure. Went back to the past a bit. At that time Joseph and Claude had arrived at his residence. White wolf hunter. Check the place where the explosion happened. Water is flowing down from above, Joseph said, based on our investigation. The white wolf's altar is nearby. Our next job is what thoroughly searched this place and found traces of Wilde's ether. Joseph then only took a look and determined, no need to look. It's in this place. Joseph pointed hand into a space in the middle. At that time a blue stream of air appeared. Then that stream of air burned into a green flame, burning brightly in front of Claude. Claude at that time very surprised. And Joseph angrily gritted his teeth. Joseph looked at that blue aura as if he saw the image of Wilde looking at him. Joseph was angry, as expected. The remaining aura makes people want to vomit. It was Wilde who was here before. Joseph stood at attention, while analyzing the blood sacrifice method of the hunters. I unconsciously felt the traces of Wilde. I have been fighting with that guy for more than half my life. Until so I also understand his magic very well. Joseph held up the blue pill. Unfortunately, this time, Joseph stepped on the ground hard, causing the ground to shake, and let him run away already. Joseph said to Claude, after returning, Claude, continue searching for me. Don't miss any traces. Claude replied, yes teacher. After that, Claude saw Joseph's back and left angrily. Before leaving, Joseph did not forget to say in a crazy voice, once I catch that guy, I will definitely have to gut him. I'm really looking forward to it. The day I met you. Wilde. Claude looked at the monster statue lying on the table and thought. Calculating the time, it can be seen that although they are all customers, Wilde's time is counted earlier. On the cabinet is also filled with gifts that Wilde gave us. If we want to get the owner of the bookstore to deal with Wilde for us, the probability of success is very low. We just hope that the owner of the bookstore can be willing to provide some clues. Claude sighed, then seemed to gain courage and said, I'm investigating his background. I hope you can help us. We can pay the cost. Lin Ji covered his head. His head was a mess. He began to fall into thought. I also used the word investigation. I suspect Wilde has already been considered a suspect. He's an old man so weak that he could blow away. Like what did he do? If Claude in front of him heard the words, weak old man, to imagine Wilde, he would probably cry a lot. Lin Ji's hand opened and he whispered, Wilde. Lin Ji looked at Claude and said, I will try. You said on the phone that the blood party is starting to act again. Is that right? So you are in charge of the task of arresting them? Claude told Lin Ji again in great detail. This organization has existed for a long time, but its actions are extremely mysterious. And time has passed. Their actions have been separated for a long time. The members are scattered. The composition is complex. The file was closed more than 10 years ago. We continuously investigate, and recently discovered traces of their activities. Quote. Lin Ji heard that. Her face turned serious and she thought, this is an organization with a long history. But that's not right, so it should be called a terrorist organization. It sounds like they're evil. Right, can make the Central Police helpless for 10 years. Or even longer than that. This is definitely an extremely powerful criminal organization. Why did Lin Ji say that? Previously, Wild told me that the Blood Party had invited him to join. But at that time I stopped him. But now it seems he probably didn't listen. I told you, some time ago he told me that he had a party recently. But now that I think about it, he's probably talking about this organization. Claude's eyes widened when he heard that. Claude thought to himself, the black-scaled faceless man. Has Wild been invited to join the Blood Party? Claude can imagine a group of hunters inviting Wild to join. This is very important information, that's it. Moreover, when Wild's whereabouts were revealed, the Blood Party also appeared at the same time. Could it be that Wild disregarded the bookstore owner's objection and joined the Blood Party? Claude was extremely bewildered. I thought that if my status and personality was similar to Wild's, I wouldn't join the Blood Party. Claude stood up and thought. But if that's really the case, then the Blood Party will once again summon its members to take action. Recently, the secret tower needs to be quickly investigated. Claude stood up, placed his hand on his chest, closed his eyes and said to Lin Ji, Mr. Lin, your reminder is very important to our actions. I, on behalf of the people of this place, sincerely thank you for your kindness. Claude thought again, what a shame. It's only at this point that I believe the owner of the bookstore is truly kind. As for an organization, it's like this blood feast. No matter how carefully it's treated, it's not good. Claude thought of a group of crazy people, specializing in ordering rewards. Such a cruel organization already exists. Because we've been here for too long, the members have taken over the forces. After they use some special form to summon the members, the initiator will issue a reward and the participants will join together. Completed, the intermediary will testify and guarantee that this time the secret tower is suspected to be the Blood Party that is causing trouble here. I don't know how many stupid people there are. Claude's figure fell to the ground. Claude sighed in his heart, unfortunately. In this world there is no one willing to help out like the owner of the bookstore. And now it's not just the blood feast that's starting to act. The hunters of other organizations are also starting to feel uneasy. Claude's hand clenched tightly. Currently, the secret tower does not have the strength to intervene. We can only hope that they will not cause too much trouble. The moon hung high in the sky. A group of people who were neither ghosts, nor beasts were smiling, their whole bodies emitting a strange blue aura, standing there shouting something. At this time someone shouted, "Everyone get out of the way. The old man's car is coming this way. Hurry up. If you bump into the old man, be careful and sell you to work somewhere else now." At this time, a carriage came, but this time the people pulling the carriage were not horses or cattle but two people. One with blue hair and one with pink hair. And these two people were both women. They were attacked. The necks were tied with prisoners' handcuffs. Their mouths were tightly closed with a piece of wood. Now they were like horses being beaten hard by the person sitting on the cart to run away. Two people pulled the cart in front of them. The blue-haired man was still crying. Again, at this time someone said, "The old man in front is the old base of the White Wolves. The remaining spiders are all in there." A bald old man holding a pipe in his hand smiled. "I haven't smelled such a strong smell of blood in a long time. Hunters are indeed a bunch of wild beasts that kill people like straw. All they need is wild beasts. If he smells the smell of blood, he'll come in droves." This old man in a purple shirt with a bald head is the leader of the Black Beast Hunter organization. A large tycoon in the black market. The bloodthirsty chariot driver Grusaxon. Grusaxon has a wrinkled face and exhales a puff of smoke and says, "But now the most seductive drop of blood has been placed on the dining table. The primitive method of preparing medicine of the White Wolves. A tree branch, in just half a month. He was able to level the White Wolf's territory and break through the encirclement on a large scale 3 times. That young lady is truly powerful. It seems like she is a master." Standing behind and leading, he sat on the carriage with cigarette smoke drifting around. Unfortunately, no matter what noble person he is, he can no longer save her now. Attacking the siege for the 4th time. Well, this is the last and most important battle. Grusaxon ordered. Based on previous intelligence, the Black Pearl stolen by Helix has now fallen into the hands of someone else. Now it's time for the object to return to its owner. It's old. A group of people standing down there each said one sentence, "Sir. Do we need to attack preemptively this time? Led us to fight, Master." Another said, "I have it's very different from hunger. I heard that the eldest lady was white and beautiful. After catching her, the old man had to do it first." Another person said, "Shallow. What are women? Real men have to play men." Grusaxon was angry, breathing heavily and shouted, "Calm down. Play with them first. This attack is the Black Beast. We are allied with Large Shark, along with other large and small hunter organizations. The matter has been divided into tasks for each organization." Grusaxon looked at a bald head with a guy wearing armor below and said, "Other small organizations with independent hunters should go harassing the front line, worrying about life and death. The two of you will lead Large Shark, together with that big lady, into a large-scale battle." The red-shirted man smiled, waiting to hear Grusaxon say, "What about, Black Beast? We will be in charge of the rear. Wait for the situation to stabilize, then proceed to harvest. Remember, when you don't need it, don't risk your life. How can you make money when you die?" Some tall guy asked. "But old man, what if things go smoothly on Large Shark's side and the method of preparing this medicine is taken by them? What if we sacrifice so many people?" "I didn't receive anything." But before he could finish his sentence, the guy was hit in the face by the medicine bottle and his head was broken. Grusaxon scolded him, "Stupid." Grusaxon's pipe was covered in blood. Grusaxon looked at the group of people and asked, "Do you still need someone to show me what to do?" "It doesn't matter whether or not. I have prepared a surprise for them." Grusaxon gave a perverted smile. "If you want to live longer in this world, strength is the most important thing. Relationships are also impossible, lack. In order to ensure that we can win, I specifically found an acquaintance among you. Surely someone knows this person. Although his reputation is not very good, his strength is excellent." Quote, "Took a step down." Grusaxon said, "With him joining the Black Beast, those terrorist-level guys are not worth mentioning. This time the winner until the end is we." Burton appeared from the smoke and dust with two swords. Grusaxon raised his hand and said, "Let me introduce to you. This is a destruction-level hunter. A guard, Knight of Thung Bark, Mr. Burton Ackerman." Burton took out the cigarette from his mouth and let out a sigh. He smiled and said, "Hello. First meeting. Good evening, beasts." The sound of fire exploded in the sky. Screams echoed loudly. One person said, "Everyone, stop being aggressive. After contacting the enemy, immediately retreat." There was a loud explosion. Countless hunters rushed forward. Max behind commanded, "Remember that the first thing is to protect your own safety, then the lives of your teammates. Follow me. As long as we can break through their siege and gather with the leader's core team, our mission will be considered complete." The hunters replied, "Yes, sir." A group of hunters ran after Max. Behind the sound of an explosion, behind Parva Rostilo ran and yawned and said, "Damn. Don't these beasts get tired? They've been fighting non-stop for the past few days, barely having time to sleep. It's really annoying." Her captain ran away. Behind him, he pushed his hat and said, "Stop whining. Because in order to survive, we can only constantly fight, become stronger and quickly expand our survival space. We have moved to the other side of the field and simply the White Wolf's original medicine is already there. So we will definitely make other hunter organizations surround and attack. This battle cannot be avoided. If we win, we will have a foothold. But if we lose, we will even die, also lost." His fish eyes widened and said, "Otherwise, if you don't risk your life now, the mission can't be completed. Then everyone will die." Parva Rostilo ran and covered his mouth and said, "I understand, but have you thought about borrowing Captain Max's glasses to wear them? I'll be honest, it kind of ruins the atmosphere." Max ran in front and said, "Don't lend." Parva Rostilo behind shouted, "It hurts. Captain, hit someone again." Max run first. Reminder, if you've messed around enough, then run quickly. Focus on being alert to the surroundings. Know that we are still within the enemy's attack range. If we let our guard down, then at any moment, you can lose your life. Had just finished speaking when out of nowhere, a tall, giant, fat man with saliva flowing all over his mouth appeared right in front of the crowd's running path. The fat man shouted loudly and held it high. Raised his fist, "Found. Max's head belongs to me." A fist was about to strike down. Max quickly dodged it but couldn't make it in time, shouting in his heart, "It's over." But right at this moment, an arrow shot through the fat man's hand. A figure taller than the fat man appeared behind him. The person who appeared grabbed the fat man's raised arm. The other person raised the hammer and looked at the fat guy and said, "Boy, you're too naughty." Then, before the fat man could react, he was punched in the face with a hammer. The fat man shouted, "Who?" The person who just arrived smashed the fat guy's head. He held a really big hammer and beat the fat guy to death on the ground. Holding the dust, the other person reminded the Max guys, "Be more careful next time." Quote, the fat guy's blood was dripping onto the tip of his shoe. He had a pair of horns on his face. His naked upper body had scars. He looked at Max's group and said, "Okay. Are you guys okay? The other squads has already gathered with the company. So boss mobilized us to help everyone." Behind, a group of other monsters also ran after them. They shouted, "Chase me. They're ahead." Max's group of people over here were all bewildered. The group of animals behind them shouted and chased them, saying, "The little spiders don't have any skills. But on the contrary, they run very fast. It's a pity that they touched us. The only way for you to suffer is death. Obediently hand over the original prescription. This lady can still let you die more peacefully." At this time, the person with the horns gritting his teeth. He stepped forward to block the group of people. Max said, "Death is easier, right? I understand." The whole group of animals rushed up like crazy. He stood still and provoked. "If you want to move your arms and legs, do it quickly. What's the hurry?" Someone on the other side shouted. "People need time to prepare to use magic." The whole group of half-human, half-animal rushed forward, each with a roaring momentum. But when the whole group was rushing forward, a blue aura flowed over the whole group. Unable to move, they looked at each other and shouted, wondering, "Can't move. What's going on?" At their feet a black liquid was flowing out, just like ink. They shouted, "What is this?" A person with a white tail appeared behind them and asked, "Do you like it? This is a meeting gift that was given to you. It's just a bit of magic. Please enjoy it." Quote, the other person has white hair and honey skin, stuck out his tongue and licked his lips and said, "Dead spirit bone magic." In terms of power, there is no one that can compare to the destruction level death spirit magic. But it's a large quantity. She has one arm made of flesh. The other arm is just a skeleton. Her leg also has a skeleton. The girl wears the right shirt and the right shirt. Pants cover sensitive areas. The girl also carries skeletons with her. The white-haired girl said, "Speaking of which, you guys were planning to take action against my lovely new colleagues. Why, that's too embarrassing. I can just kill you all. But there are too many of you. It's too much trouble for me to kill you alone. So why not use this magic to help you?" The white-haired girl with snow-white eyes smiled. Suicide. A group of beastmen each held their own weapons to their necks, because they were controlled by skeletons, placing their own weapons so they could kill themselves. A girl on the opponent's side with purple ears holding a sword to her neck trembled and cried and said, "No way. Me again." Then a black aura covered the blood flying in all directions. A girl with purple animal ears shouted loudly, "Black female hunter who knows how to use the magic of dark mages. Could it be that you are Black Pearl?" But no one answered her. Everyone agreed. The people around her one by one lost their heads from their necks. Their bodies fell from their bodies and blood flowed everywhere. The purple-eared girl trembled and called out, "Black Beast." As soon as she finished saying the two words, her head the girl was also separated from her neck. Blood flowed out. The screams continued non-stop. The girl's head was quickly slashed by the horned man swinging a hammer. The horned man clapped his hands with the girl white hair. The white-haired girl smiled, "It's over. What's up, brother? Is it still me who is faster? Try your best. Next time, try to shoot faster than me." The horned person said, "It's always been you who likes to compare. Compared to this, quickly bring Mr. Max and them back like the boss said. Is important." The one with the horns was former solo hunter, current newly recruited elite fighter of Spiders, Iron Fist, Fierce. And the white-haired girl was formerly former dark wizard of Black Beast, current newly recruited elite fighter of Spiders, Black Pearl, Farland Drew. The other two started arguing, "What the hell? That person will definitely complete the master's mission. And you don't even want to call me sister again. That's too much." Fierce's voice rang out, "In the conversation just now I didn't feel like I was being unreasonable at all." The Max people stood silently looking at the sky. Parva Rostilo clasped his hands and said, thank you both for promptly helping Ms. Farlan. Mr. Fierce. Black Pearl heard someone calling for her and was happy. Oh my god. That's so good. Older sister is here. Younger brother Fierce watches people learn Go. Fierce said again, why do you call this person your sister but I am your sir? She's obviously older than me. Black Pearl reached out and touched Parva Rostilo's head and smiled at Parva Rostilo. This girl is really good and cute. I really want to take her home. Parva Rostilo smiled and replied. So you want to invite me to your house to play? That's right. My room is very big. At this time Fierce called out. Stop making trouble. Quickly get to the main thing. Okay, this Fierce kid is really serious. Black Pearl raised his arm with several purple auras. Those beasts will soon raise their heads. About the problem to be safe. I will give all the ether I have to give a small portion to them. But that will make me no longer have the strength to walk. Little Fierce, carry me home. Fierce refused. Please take me home. Let's walk. The three of them stood silently and bewildered, looking at Max with cold sweat falling on his face, thinking, this time, thanks to these two people helping us, we were able to escape danger. These two people are not only loyal but their fighting power is no longer the same as before. Being able to recruit two people like that to join the team of young ladies is truly formidable. Max's whole group followed behind the two of them. Fierce raised his big arm for Black Pearl to lie down. Black Pearl slept in Fierce's arms. Max looked at them and thought, under the guidance of Miss Spider, just past this gate, then this can definitely become a powerful organization. As they left, a bone arm was left where they had just left. And now on the other side, an aura had just been released. Hit the ground hard. A group of people standing were blown up. A group of animals smiled and shouted, I didn't expect Spider to have such a scary monster. This is interesting. This trip was not in vain. Why are you still bewildered? Let's go visit people together. I've heard that that's a dark magic that the Dark Elves specialized in. Right when all the demon beasts were standing bewildered, then a big bone with a red eye crawled up from the ground. Bone spirit, undead of the ancient, calamity, draconic skeleton. A skeleton as big as a giant ancient tree appeared right in front of the crowd. Human. That giant skeleton just needed to use its flashing red eyes. Countless arrows came down and hit a group of demonic beasts. At a certain tree, a group of people, the lucky animals survived. They stood there talking to each other. There was an old man whose lower half of his body was broken but could still smile. Next to him was red hair. One person said, not good. That thing, I also know how to fly. If I mess up, I'll lose a lot of people's lives. The red hair laughed. If you come here today, I don't want to come back alive. I just want to kill comfortably. ! The red hair looked at the old man and asked, Old man, are you still alive? If you can't stand up, your weapon will belong to me. Just in time. Your sword is completely damaged. The old man said, quickly shoot it and blow it up. I'm about to be unable to resist anymore. Laughter rang out. Another group of demon beasts appeared. Then he stood still, and after a while, he left the person with half of his body broken and ran away. At this moment, the red hair asked, is there only one person like that in the enemy? At this moment the old man's eyes and upper body were wide open as he shouted, that's right. The leader of this monster must be you. The undead puppet was made by Black Pearl Farlan. Someone attacked her before. It seems that along with Fierce joined Jishu's Spider. But now they probably aren't here. But after I finished speaking, the whole group of people ran away, leaving behind only an indifferent back. The old man closed his eyes and said, it's true, good or bad, wait for me to finish talking before leaving. Go, lead the large shark and annihilate the enemies. General, the old man closed his eyes. Blood flowed from the corners of his eyes. His hand fell to the ground dead. Large Shark Hunter Organization has always been considered an organization the strongest among the 3 hunter organizations. Members of the organization are famous for their courage and ruthlessness. Once they attack, they will definitely kill their opponents. So it leads to a whole bunch of people. Right now, they are risking their lives with this skeleton. They will show no mercy for the members who died on the battlefield. What they care about the most is rushing into the battlefield. A group of people crazily attacking the skeleton. That skeleton, as long as he has breath, will try to kill the enemy. A guy raised his sword and appeared behind the skeleton, preparing to slash the skeleton, and he was carrying a soul for Large Shark himself. Is a man who is rushing into the battlefield immediately. the leader of the large shark, king of Shark Olga. One of Shark Olga's swords slashes down and pierces the other skeletons in two. Shark Olga uses a great move. A powerful sword of Shark Olga comes down from above and splits the skeleton in two like splitting a cucumber. Shark Olga uses King of Hark ultimate, Shark Slash. Shark Olga sat kneeling on the ground breathing heavily and laughing. Shark Olga tilted her head back, looked at the sky and shouted loudly, so happy. This battle is really fun. Not to mention the other things. I didn't expect that I could fight with such joy only against Black Pearl and Fierce. So happy, so happy. How long has it been since you've been this happy? Miss G, you really have to thank your 8 generations of ancestors. Shark Olga smiled like a crazy person who had just come out of the hospital. He shouted, the surviving members of Large Shark now come and kill me. You have to fight a few moves with Ji Jishu and her subordinates. It's time for a battle to the death. The scream rang out loudly. The white moon above the sky was obscured by something. Now there was only red. A chest appeared. Yellow pupils stared at the moon. The back of Ji Jishu holding a sword standing solemnly behind a rock wrapped in vines and roses. She said, they're here. Black Pearl's head turned back to look at Fierce and said, the dragon bones ether aura has disappeared. I'm afraid that bastard Shark Olga has killed them all. Black Pearl's whole body swung upside down on Fierce's neck. She clapping his legs behind Fierce's neck. He scolded, damn it, magic of that scale is really difficult to cast. This bastard says kill is kill. Do you think about other people's feelings? Black Pearl was quite angry. Damn it, if they hadn't consumed all the ether now, they would definitely cut your bald head in half. Fierce reminded without much concern. Okay, you're angry. Being angry here is of no use. That bastard isn't here. He's almost at the boss's place. Whether good or bad, you should walk on your own. Right? Black Pearl didn't really care and said, don't bother. Take a handful of my hair too. I'm almost completely bald. Fierce and Max slowly walked up the stairs where Ji Jishu was waiting. Ji Jishu leaned on his cane and glanced at the group of people going up the stairs and said, you guys are back safely. It's been a hard time for you. No injuries? Ji Jishu was wearing a seductive outfit looking at them. Fierce knelt on one knee on the ground and lowered his head and said, we're okay. Boss, the squad was surrounded. We led you to successfully break through. At this moment, Black Pearl jumped out of Fierce's body like a gust of wind and rushed towards Ji Jishu calling out, Master. Black Pearl came closer and raised his hand and shook his tail as if showing off to Ji Jishu, following the Master's orders. He and I led everyone back safely. And also killed many of Large's wild beasts. Shark, too. Please rest assured Master, as long as it's your enemy, I will kill them all. Ji Jishu rubbed Black Pearl's head and complimented Black Pearl suggestively, good job. Max and Fierce behind him looked bewildered, while K behind was so angry that he wanted to explode. At this time Ji Jishu touched the cuffs on Black Pearl's neck and asked, Farlan, do you really not want to remove these cuffs? You are no longer a slave of the Black Beast, and a prisoner of the Helix. But an important person. Black Pearl placed his hand on Ji Jishu's hand and said, it's okay Master. Black Pearl remembers when he was handcuffed in prison and was rescued by Ji Jishu, ever since I was taken prisoner. I thought I would die on the altar of the White Wolves. It was the Master who saved me. From that moment I swore that everything I have will belong to the Master. The Master is my only god. Black Pearl shyly placed his hand on the handcuffs that I once had as the Dark Wizard among the Dark Elves has already been taken away by the Black Beasts. And my belief towards the Mother of Spiders has been eliminated in the Nights of Despair. Right now, I'm just a woman named Farlan who belongs to the Master. The existence of this chain is to remind me of my current position. Not to forget the past. And to remember and be grateful to the Master. Ji Jishu said, is that so? I understand already. And Max was on this side comforting K. K said uncomfortably, everything that belongs to me also belongs to you. Miss, you can touch my head too. Max quickly comforted K. Okay, the young lady will not forget you. Max smiled at K. K had to purse her lips and not speak anymore. At this time Ji Jishu raised her voice and said, so now you are all safe and sound. Ji Jishu looked at K. Looked at Fierce, Spider's main team did not suffer too many losses. Under your efforts. Ji Jishu looked at Black Pearl, our most important goal has been achieved okay. Ji Jishu looked at all of them and said, now, report the situation that everyone knows to me. Fierce knelt down on the ground and reported first, obey boss's orders. More than half in recent months. We have been fighting with large shark's elite troops. Fierce raised his eyes to look at Ji Jishu and said, honestly, in the current situation, their numbers and combat capabilities are the same. Stronger than Spider. If we confront head-on, we have absolutely no advantage. Fierce analyzed very carefully. Furthermore, in terms of high-end combat power, Farlan and I can only hold our own. Those with outstanding fighting power, among them, will not affect the overall situation too much. Their leader, Shark Olga, is not someone that Farlan and I can confront. Talking about his strength may be stronger than the master. That is to say that the current situation is very unfavorable for us. An unfavorable situation has appeared. Fierce's hand tightly grasped the remaining arm. Injured and trembling again, I feel ashamed. Master has given me the chance to reincarnate. But I can't help Master. Blood flowed from the corner of Fierce's lips. Black Pearl crossed her arms and stood next to her, looking silent. At this time, Max in the back also said, Miss. I asked large sharks prisoners, and then I learned about the tactical formation. They miscalculated and caused the hunters to harass. Large shark will be the master attack force. Moreover, other large-scale organizations like Black Beast will block our retreat, forming a siege with large shark. Max's eyes behind the cloth narrowed. I heard that this was a plan invented by Old Man Grusaxon. They didn't plan to give us a chance to live. Once this formation succeeds, we will be in danger. Quote, right now while they were all discussing strategy, a voice appeared from somewhere, making them all shocked. The other person said, regarding the Black Beast, you don't need to worry. Quote, before they could all react, an object appeared. Max quickly covered his eyes and shouted, what's going on? At this moment a pair of dirty hands reached out to protect Ji Jishu. Kay shouted, lady be careful. A giant white monster with familiar red eyes and mouth appeared right in front of them. Black Pearl was under the influence of the force and had to hold onto the wall to keep from flying away. Thinking, since when did the white man, moreover, grow so strong? How could it be possible that the ether warning device I deliberately placed did not react at all? Moreover, the feeling of oppression coming from this person was the least. It also has to be destruction level. Once it's destroyed, I have to protect my master well. Right at this moment, Fierce at the side raised his hand to stop Black Pearl from moving. Calm down. Farlan. Fierce stood in front of Black Pearl and said, it's okay to hide your aura to get closer to this place. Being able to refine beasts to such an extent, wanting to destroy all of us is just a matter of sooner or later. Moreover, when a destruction-level powerhouse is surrounding him, it further proves that he has no intention of doing so. Hide. Fierce's eyes narrowed, but I don't know why I can't feel the killing intent towards us on this strong man's body. The giant monster opened its real mouth. My boss spoke out. Very calm, as expected of a fierce powerhouse. I've heard about it for a long time. The monster's stomach opened up with a gaping hole. The person over there was Burton. Right, said, it seems that Miss G has recently attracted a large number of relatively outstanding talents. Burton, hidden in the impact monster, smiled and said, terrible. It's truly too formidable. This excellent leadership ability is also one of the reasons why that gentleman values you. G big lady. The other monster stood up straight and growled. Burton appeared from inside the monster's body. Burton's face was pulled tightly by the monster's silk threads. His face seemed to be destroyed and said, please forgive me. Introduction. I'm the White Knight Guardian. Burton Ackerman. From today onwards, gives up his status as a hunter and wants to become an employee of Spider. How tall is the giant monster? That meter could make the moonlight obscured by red. Burton stood in the middle of the monster's belly looking at Ji Jishu standing below. Ji Jishu was very leisurely. She said, long time no see. Mr. Ackerman. Her figure fell to the ground. Ji Jishu smiled, I have really been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. It seems your recent appearance is not bad. Burton landed on the ground. The two shook hands like close friends. Ji Jishu introduced, this is Ji Jishu. As the leader of Spider, I welcome you to join Spider. Burton also happily smiled in response. Max on this side immediately said, really? Didn't expect the White Knight Guardian to join us. That's great. I didn't expect that at an important moment, there would be a strong person to help. There is destruction-level fighting power here. Spider's high-level fighting power is at least not inferior to large shark. Kay and Black Pearl said in unison. As expected of you, young lady, master. Burton blinked an eye and smiled. It's an honor to return to the main topic. If you want to join the organization, then the gift is indispensable. Burton snapped his fingers. Just in time for me. I brought a very meaningful gift. I hope you like it. The white monster opened its mouth, revealing a red eye, and the monster's belly stuck out a real tongue. Long. The tongue was lying on the ground, and on that tongue full of saliva was the head of the dead Grusaxen. The others saw this and shouted, "This is the leader of the Black Beast. The thirsty chariot driver Grusaxen blood. No, there are many people who want to kill this Grusaxen in the black market. But still no one dares to take action." Max looked at the head on the ground and said, "This old man is famous for being careful and cunning. Plus the way of trading illegal goods of the great sect in which he holds relatively rich wealth and connections. So he is always slapping demons and evildoers, but has never encountered this retribution." Kay also looked at her in bewilderment and said, "I heard that his money in the black market is more than Wild's money." Max continued, "I didn't expect to be able to kill him when he was told by the Black Beast, with all his strength. God, how could you do that?" And Black Pearl was on this side holding Burton's hand, his whole body trembling. Burton smiled like ever, "Relying on me alone is sure. That's impossible." Having said that, he was also very careful. In order to save his life, he had prepared many escape routes. It was just that once they paid attention and wanted to escape, he didn't have to rely on what he said. Okay, remembers that moment when the carriage's neck was broken into pieces. The two girls in charge of pulling the carriage hugged each other and trembled. Burton said, "It wasn't just him. All the members were exhausted. All present at the scene were captured by their eyes and ears. Accordingly, the entire Black Beast organization was sacrificed to them, because the amount of offerings this time was quite large. According to the report, the response I received was also quite rich. Just like animalization at that level, I could still use it 4 to 5 times in a row. And there was no need to pay the price." At this time, a rope drank around Burton's feet. Black Pearl's ears trembled. Black Pearl looked at Jishu and said, "Master, they are coming." Black Pearl closed one eye and said, "According to my ether warning device, if we act again, they will take advantage of darkness to launch a full-scale attack. With an aggressive momentum, the outer defense layer of the old base will also be destroyed. The defense line will quickly retreat. And right now on the other side, under the leadership of Shark Olga, a group of demonic beasts are coming. This time the visitors have no good intentions." At this time Max's group is talking. Black Pearl is sitting in Fierce's hand. At this moment Burton's red eyes flashed red and he spoke, "I don't know how high the sky and the earth are." Burton's whole body lit up with aura. A strange red color mixed with black underneath. On the ground, the white monster's legs broke through the ground. Burton said, "If you need me to go bare-handed, Miss G, I guarantee, I will make those who are brave enough to stop the great cause that you are mastering. Thanks to the bookstore. Have an unforgettable night." At this moment Jishu took action to stop. "No need to worry, Mr. Ackerman." Jishu threw down his cloak. "Now the battle has been arranged. It's time to collect the net." The figure of Jishu wearing extremely seductive clothes stood under the sky. She called out, "Kay, Max, Farlan, Fierce, you go protect the spider members within a safe range. And at the same time lure the enemy in deep." The whole group of people whose names were called responded, "Yes." Jishu turned her head and gave a calculating smile. "Let them come first. It's time to fulfill my promise between the bookstore owner and him. Tonight will probably be a disaster for the invaders. Unforgettable nightmare." In Jishu's armor Rose slowly crawled out. Burton saw that his pupils shrank in surprise. Burton thought to himself, that is the seed of desire. Unexpectedly, the owner of the bookstore would give the seed of desire to Jishu. Burton and his terrifying monster stood behind and trembled, watching the rose in Jishu's hand. With a satisfied smile, Burton thought to himself, "No wonder she's so confident. The scary experiences at the bookstore last time were truly a nightmare that I can't forget." Burton swallowed his water. "Honestly, just seeing it will touch my psychological obsession at that time." Burton trembled non-stop. Because this was his obsession, Burton seemed to understand what the problem was. "So that's it. This is all a trap that she has worked hard to prepare. It was originally just a fake. The battle to catch fish in the net has only really begun. At this moment, the ground echoed loudly. Shark Olga aggressively said, "What are you doing? Why is this base so quiet? There are no spider members running away. It's really disappointing. You still want to see the defeated appearance to cheer up your spirit and slaughter one more time. How could we be afraid of large shark? We are a bunch of weaklings." The whole group of people following us all joined in laughing. After all, such a big place has been carefully surrounded by us. Spiders. There's no way to escape. Another guy also said, "You're right. Tonight we must kill happily. You must let them experience what is called suffering. You must make them repent. I hate being born in this world." At this time, the whole group of people was standing and talking and laughing when they were startled because a light appeared. The ground shook, making the people jump and scream. Shouted, "What's going on? Earthquake, not right." At this moment, the ground below shook. Green tree branches broke through the ground, and the huge tree trunk broke through the ground and rushed up. Looking from afar, Shark Olga's eyes widened. Shark Olga shouted, "This!" Only to see that rose after leaving the bookstore finally opened. It bloomed countless petals, cannibal with countless eyes. Shark Olga shouted, "What is this?" Countless rose branches surrounded the group of people, and they had no way to escape. A whole group of people from the Black Beast Hunter Guild looked in bewilderment at the man-eating rose in front of them. The rose wriggled its stem. It opened its mouth wide and screamed at the crowd, "Black Beast!" The eyes. The tree branches rushed to attack them. The group of beast people could only stand and watch in bewilderment but could not resist. An animal girl with pink hair was tightly curled by countless flower branches. Unable to move. Then the rose, with countless eyes and flower branches like sharp teeth, opened its mouth wide, shouted, "That devilish rose!" But without waiting to finish speaking, the rose swallowed the girl. The rose's body grew bigger after digestion. Then the rose continued to slowly digest another blonde beast girl. Because the rose digested too many people, it grew countless layers of thick, wrinkled flesh like humans. Countless rose branches wrapped around each other. Only one of the beast people was left, trembling and screaming, "It hurts. It hurts so much I can't move." Great Commander. Blood flowed brightly, while Shark Olga stood there watching. The hand holding the sword was also shaking. He couldn't believe what was in front of him. His heart trembled as if reminding himself to, "Move your arms, my. Why don't you move? Hurry up and kill this disgusting monster. I'm the leader of Large Shark. That's what Shark Olga has. There's no way you can stop me." Shark Olga's eyes widened. "There's nothing to be afraid of." "No, how can I be afraid? Me." Shark Olga remembered her achievements on the battlefield. Once a boy, the child held a broken sword with blood all over his head. Followed and served, and was then given the position of leader by his old master. Leading to the leadership of today's Black Beast, whose voice seemed to echo in his memory. Someone said, "Remember, Olga, even if you die on the battlefield, you can't put down the two swords. It's so refreshing. Come here, come here." Shark Olga thought, before now until now on the battlefield, only the enemy is afraid of me. That's right, it's this feeling. I just need to be the same as before. I have to. Shark Olga continuously rejected unnecessary thoughts. In my head. At this moment, Shark Olga's pupils suddenly shrank. Finally, after many seconds of digesting half of the Black Beast, behind that man-eating flower has grown bigger and grown more eyes. The petal has grown so big that it is as big as the tentacle of a giant octopus, and the flower stalk has grown like a big belly that can hold 100 more people. The flower, the rose, stuck out its tongue. Saliva dripped down onto Shark Olga's head. Water Shark Olga looked at the rose and wondered, "What should I do?" The black air flowed slowly. Shark Olga raised her voice. "Smile and think, that's it. There's no need to fight anymore. The sword in Shark Olga's hand fell to the ground. The rose stem slithered away. The rose petals closed. The flower now resembles a rose before blooming. Inside that rose seemed to emit countless sounds of pain. "It hurts so much. It hurts. I'm about to die." The screams continued. The moon in the sky was dyed red by the sky. Jishu stood up and danced under the moonlight. "That's it. Dance. Sing. Just keep enjoy this carnage. Beasts." Rose petals fell from the sky. The rose attached to Jishu's chest revealed a smiling eye. It was quite satisfied. Harmless rose petals fell all over the ground as if to prove for a victory. While the rose tree controlled by the main rose is still slaughtering countless people of the black beast. Ji Jishu on this side smiled and whispered the song, Feelings. This fills me with arrogance. The lyrics are sweet, but the massacre by the rose is not over yet, rejoice. I'm the one who feels that joy. Ji Jishu's hand is wrapped around the rose branch. Her arms seem to be dancing with that pink scene, come here and dance together with the blood rain. The rose was like an assassin under the night, killing intruders one by one, without much instruction need to smile. Ji Jishu's round butt revealed falling rose petals, singing and dancing in a happy chorus. We walk on a path full of death. The rose's mouth dripped down a bit cup. Blood mixed with the rose, it's hard to see. I sing in a pool of blood. Immersed in a sea of blood. The other rose crawled around on Ji Jishu's arm. Ji Jishu stood singing, blushing slightly and thinking, as a hunter, the happiest moment is right now. Enjoying the trap that I meticulously designed and finally completing the perfect hunt. Under the city wall right in front of Ji Jishu, the rose branches were still killing her. She thought, this time to make the bookstore owner happy. I tried my best to arrange everything very meticulously, taking advantage of the primitive formula to make algebra. The number of members in the organization arranges subordinates to spend time and patience. To make the prey relax its guard. The giant rose opened its mouth wide, covering nearly half of the bulb. The sky tried to appear weak to lure the enemy into making the decision to surround and attack us, causing them to unconsciously fall into the trap. The flower branches circled the ground. Blood flowed out, finally, borrowing the bookstore owner's seed of desire to massacre and completely devour the enemy. After the rose slaughtered the enemy, it sprouted countless eyes like pathogens. Branches the trees were hanging around like a forest of vines. The bodies of dead beast people were all over the ground. Ji Jishu was satisfied and thought, this scene that looks like hell on earth is probably what you think. The owner of the bookstore wants to see it the most. The stem of the rose tree wrapped itself around countless beastmen, pulling him away like a flood to the riverbank. They could only scream in pain but could not. Resistance. The rose tree's trunk exudes a black aura. After it digested a large number of beastmen, the tree's trunk became huge and tangled. It could be said to be taller than a forest. The rose's mouth opened up like a dragon's mouth. And the rose's eyes also opened wide. The rose was now completely huge. The rose petals were full of sharp teeth and big eyes. And even though it's small, the rose's stem doesn't fit. The thorns are full of teeth. Eyes are growing all over its body. The beastmen just like that become nutrients for the rose tree to grow. Small rose tree, the baby is now taller than the forest under her feet. Ji Jishu stood silently. She smelled the stench of blood in the air like she was smelling perfume. She commented, the smell of blood is so strong. So after the desire seed is satisfied, it will mutate into such a scary ghost. At this time Ji Jishu released the octopus-like monster. It's time. Let's go. Iron will collect the souls of those dead people. The octopus monster was released. Its tentacles began to grope around the rose stems, collecting the dead souls. The monster's tentacles sucked up all the dead souls very quickly. Then the huge rose branches became wilted again. Because the octopus monster sucked up all the dead souls, the red and white aura flowed in one direction. Ji Jishu raised her hand. She touched those white souls. Ji Jishu thought to herself, because of the seeds of desire. These souls have not full body. But because they are born supernatural, they are still the best tribute. Ji Jishu thought of the monster statue in the bookstore. For the next time I go to the bookstore, so I quietly sacrifice these souls to the stone statue devil in the bookstore. The owner of the bookstore helped me so much, but I had nothing to repay. Thinking about it now, I can only quietly fatten myself up. Quote. Ji Jishu remembered the rose's words. She could imagine Lin Ji using water to water the rose and clean the dust from the monster statue. Those two could only hug each other and tremble. Ji Jishu thought, the flower girl talked a few words to me a while ago. According to what she said, the bookstore owner's treatment for these pets is extremely harsh. Basically it's completely unfair. Decoration. Before coming to my place, the flower girl had never even had a full meal. No wonder she risked her life and followed me at that time. Ji Jishu reached out and scratched the rose. The rose tree was hanging out, tongue out to lick Ji Jishu's fingers. Now the greed of the seed of desire has exploded, partly due to nature. but mostly because of being so hungry. Sometimes you have to rethink your way of doing things. Does the bookstore staff also belong to training? Ji Jishu smiled, blinking an eye. She stretched out her hand to touch the rose as if touching a pet. Making these ghosts hungry during this time. For such a long time. But when it attacks, it becomes extremely ferocious. Ji Jishu's eyes flashed with light. She looked at the octopus monster that was absorbing countless souls into her body, making this move so convenient. Analyzing the soul of that rat Ryan, capturing him from there with his iron will, and mastering his intelligence network is also an important step. Ji Jishu raised his head and looked thoughtfully. I can't help but say that you are indeed quite a scary character. Ji Jishu's hand placed on the castle wall trembled. Now that I think about it carefully, I'm happy, then I often feel scared. Ji Jishu thought of Ryan spreading his spiderweb waiting for her to fall in. I'm afraid that Ryan initially showed loyalty to me just to deceive me and then continue to separate his status as an underground emperor. He even used himself to fulfill the ambitions and desires of the hunter team that he was controlling. What was scary was that he absolutely had the ability to do such a thing. Exclamation mark. It's hard to imagine that his subordinates are almost all in all the middle and grassroots forces. And there are even high-ranking insiders in the hunter organization. Ji Jishu recalls the scene when the monster statue ate Ryan. If it wasn't for that time the bookstore owner decisively told the stone monster to kill Ryan. I'm afraid my future outcome wouldn't be better than those of the monsters. Where is the tragic bait in front of you? Ji Jishu trembled with tears. Her eyes drooped at the corners of her eyelids. The rose looked at her in confusion. And Ji Jishu was still thinking, I have to refine a few special souls of supernatural beings to pay tribute to the stone demon. Fortunately, the owner of the book was willing to support me, choosing me to open a new path for hunters, and helping me win today. Mr. Lin, this time I will not let anyone know more disappointment. At this time, Burton walked closer and commented, this physical match is really perfect. Burton smoked a cigarette, one hand on his hip, standing a little distance away from Ji Jishu and said, it seems you don't need me. Quote. Burton glanced at Ji Jishu and commented in his heart, that's really scary. Seeing her again after a few days. I didn't expect her to have grown to this level. Before because of her strength. Even though we are all customers of the bookstore. But in the bottom of my heart, it's hard to avoid considering myself a protector and considering her a junior. Burton recalled the scene of the massacre of the Rose earlier. But now I originally didn't want to help. But Ji Jishu had arranged it somewhere. Such leadership ability is truly worthy of being respected by the bookstore owner. The two people standing on equal footing were silent. Burton didn't say anything and thought, I have to change the way I look at this young leader. At this time Ji Jishu replied, you've praised me too much. I still have a lot of things that haven't been sorted out yet during this trip. In this move, my original plan was to attract the enemy to surround and attack Spider. Then use the seeds of desire to kill them. But the great leader of the Black Beast did not participate in the siege. Attacking while preserving strength and sitting on the fisherman's seat means that no matter what we do in the future, we cannot rule out the possibility of escaping and increasing casualties for members of the organization. Quote. In Ji Jishu's yellow pupils, he clearly saw Burton's image. I also thank you for helping Mr. Ackerman. Your expertise helped me avoid losses due to poor planning. Thoughtfully created. Ji Jishu reached out to Burton. Under the moonlight and dim clouds. Her face showed a smile. Later on there are many things that need your help. Right now there is something quite important need your help. Burton extinguished his cigarette and said, go ahead. Leader. Burton clasped one hand in front of his chest and one hand behind his back and bowed his head before Ji Jishu for the future of hunters. This one won't refuse. Ji Jishu looked at Burton and said, no need to bow. Mr. Ackerman, you and I are both customers of the bookstore. Of course we have to understand one thing. Ji Jishu gave a devilish smile strangely. Everything we are doing. Burton also smiled with interest. It's all to grasp the will of the bookstore owner. And Lin Ji was currently lying on the bed dreaming, practicing with Silver. Lin Ji was sweating all over her body, her hands clutching the bedsheets and blankets. Her mouth was whispering, Miss Silver, please be gentle with the pain. In the clear blue sky, birds fluttered their wings, flying. The rose stem grew sky high. In the dense forest a group of people were transporting something they were transporting continuously. Fierce held the black pearl in his arms and went to check around and said, "It seems your side is almost done." "Right, Mr. Max. The great battle that brought together the three biggest hunter forces of Noken has finally ended. I'm afraid all the participants except the boss could not have expected the final result would be like this." Max, who was transporting things in front of him, heard that and turned to look at Fierce and said, "That's right, no one would hold such a terrible trump card in her hands to attack the real elite team of the two organizations. Other hunters." Then from the destruction of their entire army, the situation on both sides was completely reversed. "Next we just need to unite the remaining hunter forces." At this time there was an echo. Max turned around. "What's wrong, Kay? Where are you injured?" Kay was probably on this side. Her arms in front of her chest were shaking. Her cheeks were pink and she said, "Young lady, you're so amazing, so great, so excited." After confirming Kay's situation, Max said, "It's fine. It's just a short circuit in the brain. Leave her alone." Black Pearl agreed with that feeling. "I understand." Fierce said, "Don't understand." "What do you understand?" Black Pearl cracked his knuckles. Max continued, "Wait a little later after the battlefield is cleaned up, then we can start counting the spoils. Food and arrangement of prisoners. Most of them were old, weak and sick hunters who were abandoned and thrown into the battlefield, with the greatest effect being death. In reality, there is nothing called this for hunters. Is cruel. Eating the weak is the survival instinct of wild animals. But ironically it is because they are useless that they can stay away from the battlefield and survive." Fierce thought of a group of old people looking at him, everyone crying, begging him to surrender, saying, "Large sharks animals, don't consider them human to the point that they even consider us their enemies." Their enemies. Oh my god. All of them were injected with poor quality dirty blood. Even if they only transformed into animals once, they would go crazy and lose control. "I asked for instructions about this. Boss said first, please the soldiers first. Then she will personally give them a good omen." Fierce looked at his mechanical arm, "Just like when he took in someone who had fallen into a dead end like me." Fierce smiled, not proud of victory, nor insulting the honor of the defeated. "And treat everyone equally." Fierce held his white hair and sat in his arms, looking at Max in front of him. Even the most ordinary beast can become a person with a place to return to who has truly great courage and nobility. This makes people must respect and admire. After hearing that, Max was silent. Black Pearl continued, "Yes. Master is really great, and never thought I could meet such a hunter. A great hunter that I can follow for the rest of my life." Black Pearl clenched his fist, "Perhaps under the guidance of such a hunter, one day we hunters can truly hold our destiny in our hands." At this moment Fierce said, "Okay, but before we get somewhere, can you get off my hands? To be honest, it feels a bit heavy to lift forever." The scream, "Ah!" rang out. Black Pearl jumped down from Fierce, hit Fierce's body hard. Fierce shouted, "What are you so angry about? Did I say something wrong?" Max looked at the two of them and argued silently. Max remembered the situation at the beginning. They were only Jishu, him and Kay. The three of them had to fight a group of people. Max's eyes narrowed. And now beside Jishu there are many strong people. There is Burton, there is Fierce, there is Black Pearl, there is him, and there are many other teammates. At this moment, Kay next to him asked, "Are you crying, Max?" Max clenched his fist and said, "No." At this time, Max said again, "But with this strange seed of desire and the participation of Mr. Ackerman, Spider will definitely become a powerful force that can change the situation of Noken. No one can underestimate her. In the future she will have to face many things. As subordinates we need to help her. So first we must learn to calmly face and solve them. Decide when encountering the same thing as the young lady. And now in the other direction. Dry tree branches in the darkness. Birds perched on dry branches. Under the red moonlight shining down on a house located here. This is White's old base. Wolves. Now is the Spider's hall. Jishu leaned on her cane and walked into the room with Burton. At this time Virgil finally said, "Welcome back, leader." Virgil and Parva Rostilo stood together. Virgil reported and said, "Report to the leader. I have prepared a reception room for Lord Hayward according to your instructions. So now Lord Hayward has arrived and is looking for you." When Virgil looked up, he saw Virgil's eyes were no longer the bulging eyes of a fish, but a pair of extremely beautiful eyes worthy of Virgil's handsome face. Ji Jishu saw his eyes wide open, his head full of surprise. Burton is also very confusing. Ji Jishu raised his hand to try calling the name, Virgil. Virgil's whole body sparkled with starlight and replied, yes. While Parva Rostilo stood behind him in bewilderment, Ji Jishu asked, what happened? My eyes, what's wrong with you? At this point Virgil explained. When Hayward said my face made him feel disgusting so he poked it. Ji Jishu was startled and asked again, poking it. Virgil explained, like, yes. Then he used a spell to make my eyes look like this. Saying that like this it's still a bit unlucky. He also said, leader, sorry because I'm just a trash ugly. Disgusting. Can't do anything. Ji Jishu scolded in his heart, what the hell did that bastard say to my subordinate? Ji Jishu comforted, it's nothing like that. Don't be listen to him talk nonsense. Whether it's me or your subordinate. You are always a respected teammate. Virgil replied, thank you leader. I feel a bit more comfortable. Parva brought the leader and everyone go see Mr. Hayward. But after Virgil finished speaking, no one responded. Virgil called out, Parva. And Parva Rostilo on this side. His face turned red, his thoughts racing, dead. Now the captain's face is so handsome. He normally acts cool and now he has an equally beautiful face. Isn't that perfect? Is there such a perfect man in this world? Oh, don't look, I won't be able to bear looking anymore. Parva Rostilo's whole body was red as blood and he turned his face away and said, don't look at me. If possible, please keep your distance. Virgil heard that quickly. Vang asked in a slightly sad and frantic tone, huh? Why? Did I do something to make you hate me? The two people Ji Jishu and Burton stood there silently looking. At this time their eyes Ji Jishu flashed golden light. The octopus monster she controlled appeared on the building observing from above. Ji Jishu thought inside, is that Hayward? Ji Jishu didn't care about the other two people and said to Burton, back to the main topic. I also have something to look for him. He is in the room ahead. Please come with me, Mr. Ackerman. Ji Jishu smiled at Burton, don't worry. Mr. Hayward is a white witch. Has many tricks and is very difficult to deal with. And is also someone my father spent a lot of money to invite as a guest. Very loyal and dedicated to Lo. Not an outsider. Burton was a bit startled. He replied, oh. Burton put his hands on his hips and said, I understand. Everyone listened to the leader. Behind Burton's back, it was as if a dark shadow fell. An eye was staring at. In the room Hayward was sitting on the wall leisurely drinking tea. After taking a sip of tea, Hayward quickly spit out the tea and said, vulgar taste. Hayward with white hair, a long beard and an old face said, really? At least the eldest lady of a famous mortal family. Yet she receives guests in such a primitive place like this. Even the tea and water used to entertain the noble white witch smells bad and nauseating. Hayward looked disdainful. He said, and that servant in charge of serving. Those two eyes. It's really disgusting to look at. Oh my god, since I came to this shabby place there hasn't been anything decent. It's really killing me. This person is Rode Hayward. The White Witch, a noble guest of G family. Hayward smelled the scent of tea. He gritted his teeth and closed one eye. Thinking, never mind. After all, her father is quite generous. Let's try to hold back a bit. If next time it's like this it won't be long before I come in person. It's so scary. At this moment, footsteps sounded, accompanied by the voice, let you wait a long time. Mr. Hayward. Ji Jishu walked over with a stick and asked. It seems you are not satisfied with this temporary place of hospitality. You look more uncomfortable than those arrogant noble ladies in the downtown area. Ji Jishu smiled and greeted, but this is the most luxurious treatment I can give you. Please forgive me if I'm not thoughtful. Hayward raised his pink nail polish hand and smiled, thinking, is this kid kidding me? Talking to me with that attitude, that's it. How dare he do that? He's really pampered to the point of having no manners at all. In honor of your father, I won't accept you this time. Hayward smiled. You're joking, young lady. I heard you were looking for me because of your new loyalty mark. Ji Jishu's eyes narrowed and she remained silent. The knife was drawn. Ji Jishu leaned on his stick. Ji Jishu smiled, yes so. I need your mark. Ji Jishu tapped his cane on the ground, but more specifically I want you to make a loyalty mark for yourself. On the ceiling of this place spiders are crawling with webs. There is a giant black spider crawling. Tried to warn him to bite the white spider to death. Hayward couldn't believe it, his eyes widened. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground and broke. Hayward slammed the table and stood up, pointing at Jijishu, questioning, "What do you mean, hey? Who do you think I am? Testing my loyalty to the G family like this? You're insulting and provoking the White Witch. Stupid." Hayward pointed his finger at Jijishu and scolded. "After all, they are still mortals. They can only use lowly ways to touch the sublime, noble things from the bottom of their hearts. There is no basic respect for a superior person. This is truly nothing." Hayward pointed with his mouth open wide and said sarcastically, "Listen clearly. Even if your family hires me, the status gap between us will still not change. Even your father wouldn't dare treat a famous White Witch like that. Do you think raising dirty wild animals will make you a famous person?" Hayward's feet stomped on the ground, screaming, "That's enough. What a farce." He put one hand on his hip and said, "I'm going home. I will report this matter to your father. He must give me a proper explanation." Hayward left. He walked past Jijishu. "Tell you, Jijishu, now you only have one choice. Prepare a full apology ceremony and then bring it to me to apologize properly yourself. And accompany the monk if you pay me properly. I will think about letting go of your desecration today. Remember." But right now a sword was pointed straight at his neck. As long as he approached, that sword could pierce his neck at any time. Jijishu, standing behind Hayward, his whole body exuded the strange aura, asked, "Are you done talking?" It turned out that Burton had put the knife on Hayward's neck. Hayward couldn't believe it. His whole body trembled, thinking, "When did this guy approach me? I can't feel it at all. It can't be. Even a normal destruction level supernatural person can't do this." Hayward said in fear, "Ah, help." Bruton whispered in his ear, "Hayward, this noble man. I kindly advise you not to have any unrealistic thoughts, nor to think about protesting. If you are waiting for the thing in the shadow to come and save you, then you don't need to wait any longer. I just took care of one when I got here. Are there any more?" Burton's shadow fell to the ground. The shadow of a murdered pink-haired girl lying on the ground. Burton spoke in a warning tone. "The type who think hiding in the dark will be safe are just karma murderers. It's okay. What idiot would use something like that as a protection card?" Jijishu's voice rang out. "Surely not. That's right. It seems like just now you said something bad about us hunters." "I must." At this moment Jijishu's footsteps came out. She started walking. "Those words must be your true words. Must have endured the humiliation of serving mortals for so many years. Surely you must have endured a lot. Right, but you are about to be liberated." Jijishu turned to look at Hayward and asked, "Do you want fame or your life now?" Hayward's eyes opened wide and he called out, "Miss G." Burton growled behind him. His eyes flashed red like a warning Hayward. Hayward immediately raised his hand to stop Burton. His voice trembling, "What is this? I'm sorry. I spoke a bit loud just now. Please stop. I'm wrong. Please don't hurt me." "No, master. I've served you wholeheartedly for many years. Is there a chance?" Jijishu heard that and smiled with satisfaction. Jijishu asked, "Then please ask." Jijishu looked at Hayward and asked, "Why did your loyalty seal suddenly and inexplicably lapse?" Hayward on this side had bloodshot eyes filled with fear and thought to himself, "It's over. In this situation, it seems like everything I bought and sold on how to break the loyalty seal has been exposed. Now the only way is to quickly let's minimize everything and try to be lenient." Hayward raised his hands and shouted loudly, "I say." Hayward raised his hands high and opened his mouth wide, shouting, "It's the ash market. They said they would provide an absolutely secure trading environment and absolutely safe trading subjects. So I was fascinated." Jijishu was a bit startled when she heard that. She was a bit shocked. But now on the other side. 2 hours later, Virgil's eyes were back to normal. Virgil was handsome one second and as handsome as a marshal the next. After returning to his eyes with goldfish lenses, Virgil looked at Parva Rostilo and thought to himself, "What is wrong with her?